Hello, thank you, Bonnie. Can you hear me
Hi,
and see my slides?
I can see you, I can hear you, but yes, and we can see your slides. Yes.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning. On the first day of this workshop, we have seen what the Satellite Data Requirements Group is, its mission, and some examples of regional engagement. And today we'll see some of the training resources developed in the context of the SDR group. And when a particular satellite data is required by the community, they must be able to access, process, and visualize it. Otherwise, the data will not be useful. So we will see the data access, data processing, and visualization training materials that are available and why they are important. All right. During our last teleconference, the SDR group discussed a preliminary working plan on how we could contribute to the satellite component of the Early Warnings for All initiative, which is an international campaign to ensure everyone on Earth is protected against meteorological hazards till the end of 2027, having early warning systems. And during this brainstorming, it was mentioned that access to data is crucial, and it's the first step in the value chain. And without a constant flow of data, there's no capacity to process it, make it available, interpret it, and communicate possible warnings. And this is one of the reasons we have extensively covered data access during trainings over the past years. But someone might ask, well, why do I need to access digital data and process it if there's plenty of interfaces with satellite imagery available over the internet, as we have seen during the weather briefing, for example? And that's a good question, and something we clarified during these trainings. And the most important reason is optimized latencies. And by latency, we mean the time difference between the data acquisition by the satellite and the image availability for downstream users, meaning that if you have access to data, you are able to visualize information much earlier using the online options. And we present some case studies showing how fast users that access and process data and how fast they can generate an image after the end of the satellite scan. Like in this example, from the Argentinian Air Force, who is able to process a regional image with only 4 seconds, make this image available at the same minute of the end of the GOES-R scan. Also, users can customize the image the way they want, with maps, labels, legends, and other decorations, creating a unique visualization that is not available anywhere over the internet. And finally, as you see, using basically the same tools, users can create and process other types of data like shape files, NWP data, radar data, and much, much more. And then they can overlay this information the way they want according to their needs, right? So latencies, customization, and be able to blend multiple data sets are among the reasons why data access and processing are important. Now let's see some training resources. Last year, on May, we have organized the GeoNetcast Americas training for Eastern Caribbean states. And this training is available on CIMH Moodle. And if you don't attend this training, you can access content using this guest access key here. And even though you have focused on GeoNetcast, there are reference materials on data access and processing. If you click at this link, for example, you can access all the training resources used during this training, like an overview of different data access mechanisms that are available, their characteristics like cost, latency, if you need the internet, or which data sets are available in one of them, much more. In the end, for example, you have the pros and cons for each system, like you are seeing here. Just a moment. Here, right? A summary of all the pros and cons of each available mechanism. So all these resources are there, right? And we have been covering this kind of content, many opportunities over the past years. in Brazil, in Costa Rica, Ecuador, Colombia, on regional associations 3 and 4 in general, Chile, during hackathons, during Train the Trainers workshops, El Salvador, and Caribbean training, and so on. And also, as we have mentioned in our first presentation, the group is organizing workshops covering different topics, including data access. And in this opportunity, our colleagues from Guatemala, Peru, Mexico, Costa Rica, and El Salvador presented some case studies on how they are accessing data directly from the cloud, either as their primary or secondary mechanism. And we have very interesting cases that demonstrate the benefits of accessing and processing data, as these examples from Guatemala, right? For example, to monitor volcanic activity automatically, they are reading the radiances. They are constantly reading the pixel radiances from the specific ABI bands in different regions in Guatemala. And as they know the thresholds where they probably have volcanic activity, they can produce warnings automatically. Also, they have created a Telegram robot, as they call it, that will automatically send warnings when there are GLM detections near the user, and the algorithm can even inform the departments from Guatemala where that activity is happening. And that is only possible with custom data access and data processing. And talking about data processing, the community have developed a lot of resources covering this topic for many types of data, including geosatellites, LEO satellites, NWP, derived products, oceanography, weather radars, and much, much more. And if you want to access a very, very detailed data processing course, you may check the resources from CIMH Moodle. On the GeoNetcast training modules, we have literally hundreds of slides, many hours of recordings covering data processing, including GOSAR, channel combinations, and RGBs, NWP, development interfaces, animations, and so on. And a nice detail of these resources is that you don't need to install anything on your computers to start practicing, as all the scripts runs directly in the cloud and using the so-called online notebook, which you can access by clicking at these links here on the slides. And these slides are already available on Moodle. And there we have hundreds of Python scripts, right? So we have created notebooks for GOSAR, the processing, notebooks for channel differences and RGBs. So you are able to create these RGBs from scratch, one step, making all the steps from the recipes. We have one notebook for WP data, one for oceanography data, including a lot of data made available by NOAA Coast Watch, as we have seen our colleague Michael presenting. One notebook for GeoNetcast products, one for Meteosat data processing, one for METOP data and products, one for Sentinel data, one for JPSS data, and so on. Weather radars. So basically, anything is possible, right? And we have all these resources available online. And we also have some resources for data visualization. And the SDR group organizes periodical meetings to share the best practices. And this is a very nice example where our colleague from Brazil presented how he developed DSAT, which is an interface to visualize GOSAR data. And he used only open source tools. And this is DSAT, just for you to have an idea. And these use the so-called tile-based technology, where these high-resolution sectors are loaded according to the visualization region, right? So Douglas developed the interface using open source tools. He presented how he did that, and we shared this with the community. And last week, for example, a student from a university said he was able to replicate the basic core of this tool based on the information provided during the SDR teleconferences, process and visualize the GO16 data he's downloaded from the cloud. And here it is. This is the interface developed by this student using the content we have shared during these teleconferences. Very, very nice example. We also have Showcast, which is another open source option for data processing and visualization. And all the scripts are available for users to adapt them according to their needs, as it happened in El Salvador, Brazil, and Greece. Regarding data usage and applications, this July, we will have another SDR workshop, and our colleagues from the US, Argentina, Mexico, Costa Rica, and Chile will present how they are using satellite data for hazard monitoring. And this one will be very interesting, and we invite you all to join us on July 25, 17 UTC. And this is the registration link. That's it. These are some of the training resources available within the context of the SDR group. And if you have any questions, or if you would like to access some of these resources or would like to contribute on future events, just send me and Marcial an email. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diego. We actually have a question on the chat. It says, Diego, I assume you address data access using the AWS cloud. Is that described in your slides, NOAA Cloud 2?
Actually, we have resources covering data access from AWS, also from Google Cloud, and from the Unidata services like LDM or Unidata threads. So we are covering multiple options, right? Because as we have seen on the data access workshop a couple of weeks ago, each one of these mechanisms has different details and advantages and latencies, etc. So we cover different mechanisms available on the NOAA Open Data Dissemination Program, for example. Thank you for your question, Steve.
Great, thank you so much. So we are a little bit over time, so unfortunately we can't get any more additional questions. But as always, we appreciate all the information that you guys provide to the region. So thank you so much for all the great information you've just provided.